Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Mer if you haven't been here before, and usually my channel is all about plein air painting, oil painting, like studio work, but today I wanted to share something that's a little bit more private, I guess, and that is my Hobonichi journal. And specifically, I have the Hobonichi A5 Techo Cousin. So far, this is my first Hobonichi journal, and I am obsessed. I love this thing. Honestly, I've heard about it for a while, and I really thought that maybe that it was all just hype in social media, circulating the Hobonichis, and like what could be so special about it, right? But it's not just hype, guys. This thing is awesome. And I'll just tell you a little bit about why I like it and how it fits like my needs. But overall, I am really just here to show you like my first month of using it. And also I've been doing a challenge called a drawing a day challenge. And I've done all of them except for one in my Hobonichi journal. And I will show you all the various supplies that I've used so far, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. And I just want to show you that the Hobonichi journal is not limited to just ink and, marker. You can use so many things in this. If you're like an artist and you like to experiment, this is a great place to journal, keep track of your activities, your tasks, and also just to do your art in as well. So let me just get started by showing you my cover. I grew a collection over the past 2 years of a lot of stickers from different artists. A lot of it's through like the Patreon. This is through like a local art store, and I just covered my Hobonichi with stickers. Like I wanted to be kind of a maximalist look, and I feel like I achieved that. Also, the Hobonichi journal, it just looks plain by itself, and I definitely wanted to do something with it. So I just covered front and back completely. I spent like a day doing this so that I can cut them all to size. And then I got this clear cover so that you can still see the stickers, but also keep the journal protected. But anyways, that's enough about the outside of my journal. Let's get to the inside. So I will briefly discuss the different sections. The main sections, especially the ones that I use for tracking. And monthly, weekly tracking is included in this journal. So first I'm going to show you the monthly tracking that I'm doing. So at first I was kind of confused on how to go about using this journal. So it has these monthly pages, then it has, let me show you, like weekly pages where you can like plan out your day based off time if you want. And then also there are daily pages. So there's a whole page just for each day of the year. And so how I've done it is that I've used the monthly one to track basically productivity. My big focus is to advance more in my art this year, and it's basically my full-time job is being an artist. So to me, productivity is important and making sure that I'm keeping up. So what I've done here is I've signified a pencil with doing a drawing. So drawing could be anything from using pens, markers, colored pencils, anything that's like a dry media, I guess. And then for me, I use a paintbrush to signify I did painting that day. So that could be oil painting, which is usually my main medium, gouache, acrylic gouache, watercolor. So all those wet medias I count as painting. And then recently I've got back into sewing, and so I want to track how much I'm sewing. I also bought a sewing machine recently, and so I just want to make sure that I'm showing that I'm using these things that I have and that I've purchased. So I still haven't done it yet, but I'm going to count how many days I did each one down here. So that's my monthly one. I just put here like main activities that I did, an art night I did at an art center. I went to Balboa Park and I did a video on doing plein air there. So those are like just big things that stood out to me that I did. And then also just little tasks that I want to keep track of doing. Okay, and then my weekly pages, I'll just go to maybe last week's. So this is the end of January, and this is generally what I've made my weekly pages look like. I have various different washi tapes that I've collected, and this is just one of them that I've had, and I thought it was a good little space filler and had a good color scheme for the month of January. And then below that, I literally, at the beginning of every week, I plan out every day, for the most part. It stays flexible, or sometimes things change or whatnot, or they don't happen. But I definitely do a daily drawing every day, so I make sure that I write that for like the first thing I usually do every day. And then all the goals that I have, I kind of spread it out based off of my week that's ahead of me. So if I want to get a couple oil paintings done, I will write that in on what days I think I can get that in, and then so on and so forth. You know, yoga, hanging with my friends, filming for the YouTube video. So yeah, this is the main thing for me with having a journal, is having my schedule written out. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm a little scatterbrained, and I always want to be doing a million things at one time. So it helps me at the beginning of the week to like lay out the things I want to do and time them based off of my days and what kind of time I have available to do these things. And it's a game changer for me. I found in December, the old journal I used to have was just blank pages, and I would create all my pages myself, and sometimes I'd get behind on making my monthly pages, and then therefore I couldn't write out my schedule, and I feel like I was lacking on productivity and kind of getting my day-to-day activities mixed up or forgotten. And so this is what's most important to me. And I kind of liked that I've used the weekly pages in this way. I don't pay attention to times. In fact, on other pages here, I use a Posca marker to just white out basically the times, because I think it looks nicer not having them there, because I don't use them. I think I just forgot this week, to be honest. And then I'll just show you the first week of February, which I just completed. And today for me is February 2nd, so I'm a day behind on doing this. I usually do my weekly pages on Sundays. So far I got all my daily drawings written down, and then I will start filling in the rest of my week. And then this here is, I forgot what they call it. I'll put what it's called here on the screen, but it's really nice. I will a lot of times put it behind the sheet that I'm working on, and then I'll put a clip on the side, and then that way my page is nice and taut and a good working surface for writing on. For me, it's not so much the writing that I need this for, but for painting. I like to put it behind painting and marker, especially to make sure it doesn't like bleed through, which honestly, I haven't had any problems with Hobonichi paper bleeding through. Like, it looks thin, but this thing could handle a lot. Like you can see, you only faintly see the thing behind it, but you never see like the ink seeping through to the other side, which is, I think, is one of the biggest surprises of the Hobonichi. Is I really thought this paper was gonna be more thin and frail than it actually is. So yeah, I keep this here on the week that I'm on. It's an easy way to flip to my current week without having to search for it. And then moving forward to the daily pages. Now for the new year, January, I'm all about setting intentions and goals for the year. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea to have resolutions, but I like to have things that I like to focus on. As you've seen, I'm really big on goals and setting goals and staying active on figuring out how to achieve those goals throughout the year, throughout the month, throughout the weeks. So yeah, if I kind of start losing sight of what my goals are, I have it written here kind of generally in like a bubble chart, I think it's called. But yeah, fitness goals, my painting, plein air goals, being featured in a gallery is one, we'll see. Traveling, and my YouTube goals. So the main thing I wanted to share with you today, like I said, is my daily drawings. I honestly didn't know this was like a challenge that was on the internet until like I already started. I just made it a goal personally that I wanted to try to make it a routine to like get up every day and just draw something or paint something. And I'm a month in. I'm happy to say I've gotten every day done. I haven't missed a day yet, so I have 31 drawings here to show you. And I think that this practice is already helping me so much. It's making me feel less anxious to jump into a drawing, into a sketchbook. I'm picking subjects pretty randomly. I have a lot of folders with saved references, and I just go through my photos and choose something that seems like, I don't know, something that I feel like painting or drawing that day. So let's get into it. It's not always very fancy, it's not always complex, but it's just something. Now, day one here, I started with a water-soluble graphite pencil, which are really fun. The thing about these, when I use them, I use a lot of water, which didn't work out great on the Hobonichi. The Hobonichi doesn't like a lot of watered down media, but you know what? It was still fun, and it's still fun to test the paper in different ways. I'm not sure if I showed this very well. So it's a Derwent Graphitone Very Dark Wash 8B. So it's a very dark graphite, but once it's hit with water, you can like move it around kind of like paint. All right, so day two. Day two, here's this little flower illustration that I did using my Lamy Safari in the color red. And this is the actual Lamy Safari ink in my fountain pen here. And the thing I like about Lamy Safari ink, which I also used here in blue, is that it's water soluble as well. So once you get the ink down, you can use like a water brush or any kind of paintbrush dipped in water to move around the ink. And I really like kind of the artsy effect that it has, the way I use it anyway. It's really interesting how the ink can bleed with the water. And then day 4, I was really comfortable with my Lamys for the first few days, kind of just warming up, I think, into the whole drawing a day thing. And then you can see here, I do use these pages also for random notes or jotting down quotes or ideas. These aren't meant to be like super photographic or perfect. These are merely me throwing in ideas and getting things out of my brain. So here are Inktense pencils, which show you really quick. Again, I don't feel like these worked out really great on this paper because, again, it uses a lot of water, and I don't think the paper liked it that much. So these are the Inktense pencils that I have. It is a set of like 70, what did it say? 72. So there's a lot of colors in this, which I really want to start using more into my regular sketchbooks on paper that handles that water a little bit better. And then just various washi tape throughout too. I have a little bit of a collection of washi tapes. All right, and then here, just some more notes I took based off of a video of Miriam Hoffman. She's an outstanding portrait oil painter, and I absolutely love her work, and I'm a patron of hers. And I've been trying to kind of learn her technique that she uses to approach her oil paintings. So I kind of just vaguely wrote down her process here. Then here is just a regular ink liner pen with Tombow markers, which are these guys. I'm sure most people know these already. And these are just little graphics I found on the Antique Pattern Library, where you can find various patterns for like quilting, sewing, embroidery, all that kind of stuff. There are so many patterns, and I think it's something I just learned about and I will be using a lot. I had a lot of fun with this one. So again, that's the Antique Pattern Library. Then here, I think I had a day where I wasn't feeling very inspired. So I just got my ink liner out and I went to Pinterest and I just drew random images that were showing up on my home page on Pinterest. And then here's the one day where I didn't necessarily do a drawing in my Hobonichi because I went to Balboa Park that day and I did some plein air there. So I did drawing in my plein air sketchbook for that day, which I can insert a picture here for you guys so you can see it. All right, so day 9 was some more Lamy Safari ink. And some quotes, which has bad words, I'm sorry. And this one here, this was just straight up colored pencil, which I have here. I can't say this paper takes layering color pencil very well. It also just doesn't show up very well on the paper. But that's just something you don't learn until you try it. And then here, another little illustration with the Lamy Safari pen. Here is watercolor. And this is my watercolor palette. At least it's the one that I generally use at home because it's a very big palette. All right, and these are my watercolors. I think it's a 28 well palette here. Again, this was pretty watered down. I mean, it's watercolors. And the paper does crinkle with it, but honestly, the paper gets a little crinkly with the water. I kind of like it. It makes the paper just seem a little bit more, I don't know, artsy or something. All right, day 13, just some more fountain pen action there. Little chicken, the guy. I went through a phase last year where I drew a lot of chickens. So chickens tend to be like my comfort subject, I guess. This guy I'm pretty proud of. This is all done with Tombow markers with a little bit of color pencil on top. I feel like this paper handles Tombow markers really well. And this is like a lot of layers of it. And you can see on the other side, like maybe it started bleeding through a little bit on like the 4th, 5th layer of marker, but really not bad. And I love that there's a lot of space with this A5 size journal. You know, I can do my pictures and have plenty of room for swatching. And like I said, taking notes, putting quotes in. It's a really good size. I think this is a perfect size for me. And then here is a little watercolor practice that I did based off of a book that I have. They just give you ideas for playing with color specifically. And I just copied some of their patterns and one of their color palettes that they had in the book. And then just a little quote that I liked from that day. Right, day 16 was Tombow with color pencil again. I think I struggled with blending my marker on this one, so it's not perfect, but again, it was fun. I think I like the peach in the foreground a little bit more than the pear. And then here is the ink pen liner with Tombow, I believe, Tombow markers. And now I think is when I started getting into like the painting practice a little bit more. I started busting out my acrylic gouache. I have a pretty decent collection of acrylic gouache and I've been neglecting it. So I was happy to kind of bust it out again and start working in my Hobonichi with it. And this paper takes it so well. Like it gets crinkly, but look, nothing, like no water seeps through. You can hardly see it from this side, to be honest. So that was my first attempt with it, and I was really happy with my first go of painting in here. This is another day where I did some plein air oil painting outside, and then I think the next day I did a little tiny version of the painting I did outside in here with the acrylic gouache again. Then some notes on buying some sewing machines. I bought a sewing machine a couple weeks ago and I went through all my different options. All right, and then this here is a tiny little, I think it's gouache. So I think this is just gouache that was dried on a palette, and so I just watered it down to do this one really quick. I did this as it was a tutorial that Sarah Burns has on her Patreon, and it's a wet and wet technique. So it didn't work great on here, but overall, considering it's in a journal paper, it's pretty cool. And then over here, this was done with a dip pen. And I just dipped it into my well of black Lamy Safari ink. Paper didn't love it. Like, I don't feel like the ink spread very well on this paper. Like, the way it dried was kind of weird. But it was still fun to play around and test this new media out. I think this day was another one where I just wasn't super inspired, so I just looked up some patterns online and almost just like doodled this one in here. Some more notes on portrait painting. It's a little onion guy with the Lamy Safari. And it's a little still life image I did with the fountain pen again. This is an image I've actually done like 4 or 5 times in like many different ways. I've done like a graphite drawing of it. I've done an oil painting of it. I've done a small painting in another sketchbook, and then now I did it with ink with my fountain pen. So this image is like a go-to, I guess. It's nice for just practicing still lifes, and I'm comfortable with it, so it's nice, comfy drawing to do. Then here I got the acrylic gouache out again. This is the one where I was like, wow, this is really fun doing tiny little still lifes and landscapes in here. It's been really fun. I like wake up every day excited to get my daily drawing in. And then more acrylic gouache of a fruit. I think it's just a random image of a fruit that I saved somewhere down the line. I just have a album in my phone just called references of random things I think I might want to draw or paint at some time. These are some daisies I took a picture of a bouquet that was sent to me some time back, and just with the ink liner pen. This here was another Sarah Burns tutorial from her Patreon. She just goes over, it was focusing on how to paint rocks. And then also I wanted to find a scene that has snow because I am traveling somewhere that is snowing this week on the East Coast. So I'm planning to do some painting out there, and I just want to practice how to paint snow. And I'm really happy with how this one came out. And then here is more acrylic gouache, believe it or not, little pigeon guy. And then here is just plain gouache. I finally got out my airtight palette that I've been neglecting for like several months and refreshened it, filled it back up, and this is my first time using it again here. Kind of see the difference between, I feel like acrylic gouache has more of a punch with the color than gouache has. I don't know, just my observation so far. And then here is, I believe, just the gouache again, and then I just use a little bit of the ink liner to outline it. Yeah. And then there's February 1st, just a little doodle I did at the end of the day. We threw a party yesterday, so I didn't have a lot of time to do something. But that is it. I just wanted to share a little bit about my different way of using the Hobonichi journal. I had a hard time finding like artists who use the journal, so I really wanted to experiment and see what this thing can handle, and I am so happy with it. Not only does it take these different medias pretty darn well, but I love the setup of the journal. I love the daily pages, I love my weekly pages, and I love the monthly page. I think they all have some use for me. Like they're all useful to me in some way. And yeah, that's it. And one last thing I did want to show you, because as I do the drawing a day throughout the year, it gets harder to keep track of what day you're on. So in the back of here, they actually have a checkoff list that you can use for like any sort of thing. And I'm using it for doing a drawing a day. So I haven't filled in yesterday's, but it'll be an easier way to track like what day I'm on. And today would be day 33. So now I think I'm going to close this video out and get to work on my drawing for day 33 today. I have not done it yet. So I hope you guys found this helpful in any way. Maybe you also found a new way of using your Hobonichi journal, or if you've been on the fence of getting one of these journals, I highly recommend it. As someone who's always like made their own pages. I just really wanted something that was pre-made for me. I feel like it's easier to stay motivated and to stay on track if you're not having to make your pages, because sometimes you're just not motivated to make journal pages, you know? So I love this thing. Highly recommend it if you get one, and I hope you also love it and find your own unique way of using it. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye guys.